her story. And you're going to see, woven through this story, the power and the grace of God in a powerful way. I've read her story. I know her story. You're going to be inspired by her story. And after she finishes, I'm going to come up and give some closing thoughts. So as she comes up, let's all give it up for Saydie Coulter.
Yeah, girl! Thank you, Pastor Mike. Thank you for the warm welcome. For those of you... Yeah, Casey. Thanks, guys. All right, so those of you who don't know me, like you said, my name is Saydie. I'm 20 years old, and I am currently in college at UCM. Go Mules. Yeah, Mules. All right, so when I was your age, I would have never thought that I would be on a stage telling my story, or let alone that I would really have a story to tell, if I'm being honest. I didn't really grow up in a strong Christian home. We went to church occasionally, every now and then, especially on Easter and Christmas. And throughout elementary school, I would go to this thing called Awana with one of my friends. Who knows what Awana is? Does anybody really know? Okay. But if you don't know, it's like kind of like Girl Scouts for memorizing Bible verses. You get a vest and everything. It's pretty official. But one night I came home from Awana, and they talked about salvation and asking Jesus to come into your heart. And I came home and I told my mom, I want to do that. And so she prayed with me right then and there, because she did grow up in a pretty strong Christian home. And I was saved at 8 years old. And then about 4 years later, I was baptized alongside my dad, so that was pretty cool. But I had done all the steps, I checked all the boxes, but I don't really think I understood why I did them. And I thought I was done. That's what I thought Christianity was, that I was saved and I was baptized. And it wasn't until I was halfway through high school, about my junior year, that I really realized how much I needed Jesus in my life. So the summer leading up to 7th grade, we moved to Kansas City, my family, and I started going to Summit Lakes Middle School, and right around that same time was the time that JCI was planted at Summit Lakes Middle School. So that was my church and my home. So we started going, and I never looked forward to it. I never got anything out of it, and I always dreaded the ride home from church because my parents would drill me with questions about the message that I didn't care about, and it would usually end with me in tears because I was an emotional middle school girl. They would ask me, kind of like when you come home from school and your parents are like, how was school? What did you learn? And you're like, nothing good, fine, I don't want to talk about it. And they probably get mad at you, like they would get mad at me. And church was just routine to us. It was something we did every Sunday. And I bet a lot of you relate to that, either on Sundays or maybe you feel like that right now on a Wednesday night. Your parents make you come. You would rather be doing 1,000 other things, because I know this because I felt the same way. I would have rather been watching Netflix in my room by myself instead of sitting listening to Pastor Christian talk. So after we started going to JCI, a couple years later, into my sophomore year, my mom finally was like, you're going to youth group. And I was like, no, I'm not. And she was like, yeah, you are. And I was like, no, I'm shy. I don't know anybody. I don't want to go. And she was like, well, if I volunteer, you have to go. So she started volunteering, and she hasn't stopped. Sorry, Mom. She's still here. And so we started going to youth. But it didn't look like this on a Wednesday night. Go back to the last picture. It looked like this. It was chairs and somebody standing up talking about the Bible. I don't really remember it being fun, but it wasn't like this. It wasn't loud music and throwing people up in the air and games and ping pong and the craziness that goes on outside and Chick-fil-A. It wasn't like that. And it wasn't even that I didn't want to go because it was boring. It was because I was fine without it. I didn't think I needed it. I mean, my life was pretty good up to this point. I mean, why would I need Jesus? I was so disconnected, and I got nothing out of it. And I mean, I knew I was a Christian. I knew I believed in God. I knew that Jesus died on the cross for my sins, but I didn't feel changed, and I didn't really act changed either. So after going to youth group on Sunday mornings, that led to my mom forcing me to go to youth camp for the first time. There's us. We actually do get along. She doesn't just force me to do things. But there we are at camp. And that summer we went to Go Tell in Georgia. How many of you have been? Probably a good handful of you. Yeah. Go Tell's a great camp. Changed my life that summer. Summer of 2016. It was the summer before my senior year of high school. And I really had no idea what I was walking into. I had never experienced anything like that. There's a picture of the stage if you haven't been. It's big, they have amazing worship leaders, amazing speakers, and it can just be really overwhelming if you've never experienced anything like that, and that was me. I had no clue what I was walking into. I was just looking forward to a fun week at the lake. And I roped two of my best friends into going with me that summer so that I would at least have some friends with me. And the first night, a guy named Adrian gets up on the stage, and he gives this great message about the 4 tiers of Christianity. Some of you might remember it. Basically, over here is the chair of the atheist, someone who doesn't believe in God, and then on the far side is the devoted Christian, the best Christian you can be. And in the two middle, this one's kind of like, I don't really know if I believe yet, and then this one is the worst chair you want to be in. This is the hypocrite, the person who says they go to church, who says they love God, but they don't really act like it. And that night was like a big slap in the face because I realized that I was in that second chair, that I was the Christian that said they went to church but didn't really act like it. At school, if somebody saw me, they would have been like, oh, that girl's a Christian over there. That was not me. And that night, it was like a slap in the face, and I was not prepared to hear a message like that. And I really didn't realize, looking back, how much emotional weight I had been carrying around until looking back. So leading up to camp, the prior years of my life, I was a volleyball player. That was my life. There's a picture.
Girl, get it, girl.
Yeah, I played 11 months out of the year. This sport was my entire life. I played for Lee Summit West in middle school. I played for Summit Lakes. I played for multiple club teams across the years. I played, I think, for about 6 years. And after my sophomore year of high school, it kind of became more of a job to me than a sport. And I was mostly just playing for my parents, honestly. And I had to build up the courage to tell my parents that I didn't want to play anymore. And it was really, really hard. It was one of the most difficult conversations I've ever had. And I had to tell them that all the time and money and energy that we put into this volleyball career that was supposed to take me at least through college was over, and it was a waste of time. And I left feeling like a complete failure and like a disappointment, and I thought they were going to be disappointed in me forever. And then, not much later, after I quit volleyball, my boyfriend of 2 years and I decided to break up. And it was a mutual breakup. That wasn't the bad part. It was just that I left the relationship a completely different person than when I entered it. Partly because from your freshman year of high school to your junior year, you hopefully change and grow and mature a little bit. But some people don't, it's fine. But I did, hopefully. And I wasted all that time on a temporary person. And I just left the relationship bitter, angry. I felt worthless. I hated what I saw in the mirror. I had terrible self-esteem. And I just didn't really like the person I was. And I was trying to hide all of these things from everybody in my life, especially my parents, though. I didn't want them to see me as broken as I was. And some of you might be feeling like this tonight. What are you trying to cover up from the people around you? It might not be because of a guy or a girl. Maybe it's an argument you had or something you did that you don't want people to know about, that you're trying to hide from everybody. Jesus knows everything about you, though, and he still loves you anyway. He knows all your pain, all your suffering, all the secrets you're trying to hide from everybody. He knows everything, and he still loves you anyway. And he was waiting for me that summer at Go Tell Camp, and he was waiting with open arms. Thank God. So, like I said, I was very vulnerable. I was in a very broken state. And that night, Adrian, I felt like he was really speaking right to me. And that night, I ended up going forward, and I recommitted my life, so that was good. And throughout the week, my heart was kind of mended back together, you could say, with verses like Psalm 34:18. It says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." And then the worship band, they're amazing. Every song they sing is amazing. But they had this one original song called "You Hold Me," and I still listen to it today. And it talks about how God never gives up on us. And all of these things, all these truths that I had never really heard before was just music to my ears because I didn't feel loved, and I felt like I was a disappointment to everybody. And these things really brought me out of the black hole I was in, because I knew I was forgiven and I knew I was loved. and that was the most important thing to me. And I was really tired of pretending to be someone I wasn't. I was tired of being the fake Christian at school, and I wanted to be real, and I wanted to be authentic. But the problem was I really didn't know who I was at this point. I was really in the middle of an identity crisis because at first I was known for being the amazing volleyball player. My whole family had shirts, and it was a big thing, and they were so proud of me. And then all of a sudden I wasn't the volleyball player anymore. And then I was known for being someone's girlfriend, and you guys know in high school that's like a big thing, status, and then I lost that too. And I thought my identity was in a sport, and I thought it was in a boy, but I was really, really wrong. And I was let down by these things because I put them on a pedestal. They were my whole life, and I had nothing else, and then I lost it, so I had nothing. When we put our hope and trust in anything but Jesus, we will be let down. I was. So what are you trusting in? Maybe it's a person like me, or a sport you're playing that you're hoping it'll take you far. Jesus is the only thing we can put our trust in and not be disappointed. Everything else in life will let us down eventually. Sure, it feels good in the moment, but once it's over, it's really going to hurt. I was hurting. So I recently heard a quote, and it says, if you think you encountered Jesus and your life wasn't radically changed, then it wasn't the real Jesus. Jesus radically changes us, and it should show to the people we're around. Something isn't right if people don't notice it. So whenever me and my mom came back from camp after a few days, my dad finally was like, what happened to you guys down there? Like, something is different about you. Like, what's going on? And he could tell that there was a spark inside of us that we really couldn't explain, but we were different. We were both so impacted. So before I went to camp, I was completely obsessed with my past. I was completely obsessed with my hurt and my pain I had, and I was so angry, but when I came back from camp, it was kind of like magic. I wasn't so focused on my pain anymore, and I was more worried about being fulfilled just by my relationship with Jesus and nothing else. And that made all the difference for me. And although I was closer to Jesus, it was still really hard coming back from camp, but my friends made it easier. I think we have a picture. So that was part of my small group that first year at camp, but in the left corner there, the top left corner, are my two best friends from high school, and those are the two I kind of roped into going with me to make it a fun week for myself. And because they'd experienced the same camp I had, it made my life easier. My mom always says, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. If I would have come home to a group of friends that I was living in sin with, or that didn't believe the same things that I did, I would have been in trouble, and I probably wouldn't be on the stage right now if I'm being really honest. Based on the friends you have right now, what's your future looking like? Do your friends hold you accountable? Are they supportive of what you believe? Or do they influence you to do things you know you shouldn't be doing that are only going to hurt you in the long run? My friends made my transition easier, but it was still challenging. If you've been to camp before, you've probably experienced the camp high that everybody loves. You come home and you're just so fired up for Jesus, and you want the same things that happen at camp to happen at home. But we all know that the danger of the high is the fall. Sometimes we fall really hard when we come home. I would say I fell really hard. I was kind of more like jumping on a trampoline. I would go down and then God would catapult me back up, and it happened over and over again. And I partly think that happened because I stayed plugged in. I kept coming on Sunday mornings, and it eventually turned into Wednesday nights because soon after this camp, I started my senior year of high school, and then JCI moved into this building. And this is where I was really tested in my faith. Throughout my senior year and then into my college years, even now, God has been putting me in situations that have really terrified me, and it makes me put my trust only in Him and in nothing else. For example, my senior year, Pastor Kyle asked me to give the welcome with him on a Sunday morning. That was terrifying. I almost had multiple panic attacks about that. And then they offered me this internship that was never in my plan for my career, and I ended up taking it and saying yes, and it's been awesome. And then, like right now, standing on the stage, this is not in my comfort zone. If I was in my comfort zone, I would be sitting next to Taylor in the front row, if I'm being honest. This is not my comfort zone at all. So, all these minor events have been milestones in my walk with God, and everybody has a story. This one's mine, and God can use our stories in a powerful way if we let Him. So, here are a few takeaways before I get off the stage that hopefully will help you in your own walk with God that I've learned from mine. The first one, and these you can write down if you want. The first one is to keep an open heart. Ezekiel 36:26 says, I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you. I will remove your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. So I was so closed off before. My heart was so hard that I didn't receive any information, and it didn't make any difference to me that I was there every Sunday morning. So we need to acknowledge our brokenness. Before, I didn't see myself as broken. I was fine. And I was listening earlier this week, I was listening to the Activate podcast that Pastor Christian does. And he said something that I was like, I have to share with them. He said, pottery that is hard breaks easily, but pottery that is soft is easy to mend and bend and make changes to. And we have to keep our hearts soft so that God can come in and change us in amazing ways that can really impact our life. So keep an open heart. Second thing, stay plugged in. This one's so important. Be here every Wednesday that you can, guys. Be consistent. That's the way you make good relationships with your small group leaders and people who are going to influence you in the way that Jesus would. Go to the retreats and the camps that we plan for you guys. It's not just for all the fun and games like you think. It's not just so that we get to go to the beach. Ultimately, our number one goal is that you grow spiritually, and that's how you grow. So if you're not signed up to go to Beach Bash, please sign up June 2nd through the 7th. This same guy, Adrian, who gave that 4 Chairs of Christianity message, is going to be with us. Please come if you're not signed up. So stay plugged in. Third thing, step out of your comfort zone. Like I said, I wouldn't be here if I was in my comfort zone. And I can for sure tell you I've only grown when I'm outside of my comfort zone. This might look different for everybody. It might look like sharing your story with somebody who's far from God, a friend of yours, or maybe even a family member. That can be scary, but it's amazing when you really share your story with someone and it impacts them in an amazing way. So step out of your comfort zone. And then the last thing, embrace the change. Going back to my quote before, if you think you encountered Jesus but your life didn't radically change, then it wasn't really Jesus. I mean, I thought I knew Jesus before I went to Go-Tell camp that summer, but I soon realized that I was really, really wrong, and he totally changed my life that summer. Everybody has a story. No matter where you are in your walk with God, I'm 100% sure that He's working in your life, whether you feel it or not, or whether you're aware of it or not. I promise you. Let me pray, and then I think Mike's going to come up and say something. God, I just thank you for putting me in this position where I'm able to share my story and how you've just dramatically changed my life, God. I'm so thankful for your Son and that He takes all of our brokenness and all of our pain and takes it into something good. I pray for each student. I pray that they realize the power in their story, even though, like me, I thought my story was boring, but here you are using it. I just pray that they feel your presence as you are working in their lives, God. We love you, and it's in Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Yeah,
If you think you encountered Jesus in your life and your life wasn't radically changed, then it wasn't the real Jesus. Did you make that up? No. I was like, man,
I wish.
That's amazing. If you think you encountered Jesus and your life wasn't radically changed, then it wasn't